Okay, so this time our topic is about behavioral finance and market anomalies. No? Behavioral finance is a field of study that explore how psychological factors and cognitive biases influence the decision-making processes of investor and financial markets. So, unlike traditional finance theories, which assume that individuals act rationally and make decisions solely based on available information, behavioral finance acknowledge the emotions, heuristics, and social influences often lead to irrational behavior. And this discipline integrates insights from psychology, economics, and finance, of course, to understand why investors sometimes deviate from irrational or from rational expectation. One key concept in behavioral finance is cognitive biases, which are systematic patterns of deviation from rationality. So common biases include overconfidence, where investors overestimate their ability to predict market trends, and loss aversion, which describe the tendency to fear losses more than valuing equivalent gains. So these biases can lead to suboptimal decisions such as holding on to losing investment for too long or selling winning investment prematurely. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
Bakit ka, sir, Doc? Ay, sorry. Sir T.
Ay, sorry po. Okay na po, Ma'am Jaisel.
Yes po.
Okay, so my discussion is all about behavioral finance and market anomalies. So when we say behavioral finance, it is a field of study that combines psychology and finance to explain why individuals and markets sometimes act irrationally, deviating from traditional economic theories like the efficient market hypothesis or the EMH. It is a subfield of behavioral economics proposed that psychological influence and biases affect the financial behaviors of investors and financial practitioners. Moreover, influence and biases can be sourced for the explanation of all types of market anomalies, specifically market anomalies in the stock market, such as the rises or falls in stock price, as behavioral finance is such an integral part of investing. The Security Exchange Commission has a staff specifically focused on the behavioral finality of perspective. Example of stock market returns, market outcomes, and returns, but there are also many different angles for observation. The purpose of classification of behavioral finance is to help to understand why people make certain financial choices on how those changes affect the market. So, behavioral finance concepts are mental accounting, herd behavior, emotional gap, anchoring, and self-attribution. So when you say mental accounting, mental accounting refers to the propensity of people to allocate money for a specific purpose. It's a concept of field of behavioral economics. So it was developed by economist Richard Taylor in late 1999. So Taylor recommended that people should treat money as a fungible commodity and treat all money are the same, okay, regardless of its origin or use, okay, as a fundamental commodity and it contends that individuals classify funds differently and are therefore prone to irrational decision making. So an example for that is the people are willingness to pay more goods when using credit cards than if they're paying cash. This phenomenon is referred to as a payment decoupling. So how would this work? So first is categorization of funds. So when we say categorization of funds, individuals or businesses often create different mental categories for various types of money. So example of that is personal finances might be divided into categories as saving, for entertainment, bills. Similarly, for businesses might mentally categorize fund into different accounts like operating income, capital expenditures, or marketing budget. Different valuation of funds. So people may treat money differently based on its origin. So for example, a business might view revenue from regular operation, okay, differently from revenue derived from one-time windfall or sales of asset. This bias can lead to inconsistent financial decisions such as spending windfall profits or reinvesting them in less prudent ways instead of using them to pay down debt or improve business fundamental. Next is expenditure bias. So expenditure bias, because of mental accounting, individuals and companies may be reluctant to dip into certain accounts of money. For example of that is a business may continue to invest in a failing project because they have already allocated a portion of budget to it. Even though yung rational decision nila would be cut to losses, similarly to an individual might hesitate to use their saving for necessary expense. Next is budgeting and allocation. So mental accounting also influence how budgets are structured and managed. In business departments may operate with rigid budget allocations. So even if flexibility could lead to a better overall resource utilization, okay, ang marketing department may continue to spend its budget allocation on campaigns that aren't yielding results simply because the funds were earmarked for purpose rather than reallocating them to more effective initiatives. So next will be herd behavior. When we say herd behavior, it's a state that people tend to mimic the financial behaviors of the majority of the herd. So when we say herding is a notorious in stock market as causes behind dramatic rallies and sell-offs. Okay? So it is a behavior of individuals in a group acting collectively without centralized direction. So when we say herd behavior in business finance refers to a tendency of individuals or investors to follow the action or decision of a larger group rather than relying on their own independent analysis or judgment. So this phenomenon occurs when the people make financial decisions based on what others are doing, especially in the situation or uncertainty of fear, rather than a solid data of rational thinking, essentially this idea of following the crowd in decision-making processes. So what are the implications of a herd behavior? First is what we call the asset bubble. So when we say asset bubbles, in herd behavior can contribute to the formation of bubbles where asset prices are driven up to unsustainable level due to collective buying. So when the herd eventually realize that the price are not supported by fundamental, a sharp market correction can occur. Next is inefficiency in market. So inefficiency in market, the rise of herd behavior challenges the assumption of market efficiency. So it causes prices to deviate from from their true value instead of reflecting all available information. Prices may be influenced by collective emotion in behavior. So investment risk naman po, it's following the herd can lead to poor investment decisions. So why? Kasi when the crowd is wrong, individual investor may suffer significant losses as they have made decisions based on their social influence rather than rational evaluation of risk. And last is corporation decision making. So corporation decision making in business strategy, herd behavior can manifest in companies copying the decision competitors, even if they are not the best fit for the company's specific situation. This can lead to strategic misstep or missed opportunities for innovation. Next is emotional gap. So when we say emotional gap, it refers to the decision making based on the extreme emotion or emotional strains such as anxiety, anger, fear, or excitement. It oftentimes emotion are the key reason why people do not make rational choices. So when an extreme emotion motivates an individual's financial decision, in finance, the emotion are often comprised by anxiety, greed, enthusiasm, and fear. These are the key reasons why people make irrational decisions. So when we say emotional gap in business finance, it refers to the difference between rational, logical decision making and decisions that are driven by emotions such as fear, greed, overconfidence, and anxiety. This emotional gap can be manifest when business leaders, investors, or other stakeholders make financial decisions based on their feelings or psychological influence rather than objective analysis data. So what are the implications of emotional gap? First is the investment decision. So investors who always allow their emotion like fear, greed, or overconfidence to dictate their action may experience the suboptimal outcomes. For example, buying into a hot stock due to herd behavior or panic selling due to the market downturn can lead to a significant financial losses because emotional decision can cause investors to deviate from their long-term strategy, often selling at a loss or chasing short-term gains without regard for the fundamentals of the investment. Next is corporate strategy. So overexpansion, business leaders may extend too quickly in response to an emotional surge of confidence or optimism, resulting to misaligned growth strategies, increase operational costs, and unmanageable risk exposure. Next is financial crisis and bubbles. So emotional gaps contribute to the formation of what we call financial bubbles, where speculative behavior drive asset prices far beyond their intrinsic value. So this can be seen in historical events like a dot-com bubble or housing bubble. Next is behavioral risk. So when we say behavioral risk, in organizational finance, emotional gaps can lead to a poor risk management. So overly optimistic leaders may overlook potential risk, while those who are overly fearful might avoid necessary risks, leading to missed opportunities and reduced competitive advantage. So next is anchoring. So when we say anchoring, refers to attaching a spending level of certain reference. Example may include spending consistently based on the budget level or rationalizing spending based on the different satisfaction utilities. It is a cognitive bias that occurs when individuals rely too much rely too heavily on an initial piece of information. The anchor when making subsequent decision, even if the anchor is irrelevant or arbitrary. So in business finance, anchoring can lead to distorted judgment as decision makers fail to adjust their expectation or decision appropriately based on the new information. So the initial anchors serve as a reference point, often influencing how they perceive subsequent data on or prices, which can lead to suboptimal decisions. So in anchoring, so how it works. So first is initial information or reference point. So when we say anchoring, it begins when a person is exposed on a particular piece of information first. Then this could be anything from a piece of a price of stock, the valuation of the company, or even in a historical benchmark like previous earning report. So when this anchor is set, it often influences how future decisions are made, regardless of how relevant on current and the information may be. Adjustment bias. So people often make insufficient adjustment from anchor when making decisions. Okay, for instance, an investor first hears that the stock is worth 100 pesos or 100,000. Based on the particular set of information, they may anchor from 100,000 price point, even when the new data or market condition suggests that the stock is worth 120,000 to or 80,000. The tendency is to adjust too little or too much response to the new information, sticking too closely to the original anchor. And last is influence on perceptions and decision. So anchoring can influence various aspects of financial decision making, such as investment choices, valuation, pricing strategies, and forecasts. So this bias is particularly relevant when investors or managers are uncertain or dealing with complex financial information. So when anchor can artificially constrain their judgment. So last will be the self-attribution. So when we say self-attribution, it refers to the tendency to make choices based on the overconfidence in one's own knowledge or skill. Self-attribution usually stems from intrinsic knack in a particular area. Within this category, individual tends to rank their knowledge higher than others, even when the objectively falls short. So it is a cognitive bias in which individuals attribute their success to their skills, decision, or efforts while attributing their failures to external factors such as bad luck or unfavorable circumstances. So in business finance, this bias can have a significant implication for investment behavior, corporate decision making, and risk management. Okay, self-attribution teaches investors to unwittingly take on an appropriate degree of financial risk and to trade too aggressively, amplifying personal market volatility. So how self-attribution works. So first is success and internalization. So when an investor or business leader achieve positive financial outcome, okay, they are likely to attribute the success to their own decision making, skills, error, or foresight. This create a sense of self-validation and reinforce confidence in their abilities, often leading to more risk-taking future decisions as they believe they have proven track record or possess superior judgment. So failure and externalization naman, on this flip side of self-attribution, when financial outcomes are negative, like poor investment return, a failed product launch, or missed financial target, individuals often look at it as external reason. They might blame the failure on factors outside their control, such as market condition, the competition, or bad luck. This allowed them to maintain a positive self-image and avoid a psychological discomfort of accepting personal responsibility for poor decision. So some biases revealed by behavioral finance. First is confirmation bias, experiential bias, loss aversion, and familiarity bias. When we say confirmation bias, is when investors have bias toward accepting information that confirms their already held belief in investment. So if information surface, investors accept it readily to confirm that they are correct about their investment decision, even if the information is flawed. So, for example, that if someone believes a particular political ideology that may only read news articles or watch media that support that ideology and ignore sources that present opposing viewpoints. This can reinforce their existing belief or even if overall evidence on subject is more balanced or contradictory. Confirmation bias can affect decision-making judgment and reasoning in a various aspects of life such as politics, relationship, or science. It is a tendency of people to pay closely attention to information that confirms their belief yet information contradicts it. This is a type of bias explored in behavioral finance or biases tend to limit our ability to make purely rational investment decisions. Next is experimental bias. So an experimental bias occurs when investors' memory of recent event makes them biased or leads them to believe that the event is far more likely to occur again. For the reason is also known as recency bias or availability bias. It refers to unsystematic error in design, conduct, or analysis of an experiment that result in incorrect, misleading conclusion. Okay? So this bias occurs due to the various factors such as the way data is collected, how participants are selected, or how the results are interpreted. So it can affect the validity or reliability of an experiment, leading to distortion of the findings. So example of that is in financial crisis in year 2008 to 2009 that led many investors to exit the stock market. Many had a dismal view of the market and likely expected more economic hardship in the coming years. Next is loss aversion. So when we say loss aversion, it occurs when investor place a greater weight on the concern for losses than the pleasure for market gains. In other words, they are far more likely to try to assign higher priority to avoiding losses than making investment gain. It refers to a systematic error in the design, conduct, or analysis of an experiment that result in an incorrect, misleading conclusion. So this bias, okay, loss aversion, is a key concept in behavioral finance describing the tendency of people to prefer avoiding losses rather than acquiring equivalent gain. In other words, the pain of losing money or asset is psychologically stronger than the pleasure of gaining the same amount. So this phenomenon was proposed by psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos as part of their proposed prospect theory in the late 1970s. So familiarity bias is a phenomenon in which people tend to prefer familiar option or over unfamiliar ones, even when unfamiliar option may be better. So it's when an investor tend to invest in what they know, such as domestic companies or locally owned investment. As a result of investors are diversified across multiple sectors and types of investment, which can which can reduce risk. Investors tend to go with investment that they have a history or have familiarity with it. So when you say familiarity bias, it arises due to comfort of and a sense of control, where individuals tend to trust what they have known or experienced with. While it feels safer, it can limit the potential for a better returns than come from diversifying investment and considering a wider range of opportunities. Okay, so market anomalies. So when we say market anomalies, so it refers to a pattern of occurrence in financial market that contradict two efficient market hypotheses. So EMH. According to EMH, asset prices should always fully reflect all available information, meaning that it's not should be impossible to consistently outperform the market by exploiting risk price securities. However, market anomalies are situations where prices do not follow this idealist logic, suggesting that market may not always perfectly efficient. So in market anomalies, we have calendar anomalies, valuation anomalies, momentum and reversal anomalies, earning and announcement related anomalies, behavioral anomalies. So when we say calendar anomalies, there are two. The January effect, which is the stock is especially small cap stocks tend to perform better in January than in other months. This could be due to tax loss selling or institutional investor adjusting their portfolios at the year end. And next is what we call the weekend effect. Stock tends to perform worse on Mondays than weekdays, possibly due to investor sentiment or news release over the weekend that influence trading on Monday. Next is valuation anomalies. So in valuation anomalies, we have value premium, which is stocks with low price to earning or uh, price to book ratio tend to outperform growth stock in long term. So the return of value stocks over the return of growth stocks. So an initiative measure of potential value in the value premium is spread in the price to book ratio between growth and value stock. Next is small cap effect. So when we say small cap effect, small companies often provide higher returns than larger, more established firms, possibly due to higher risk or less analyst coverage. So it suggests that smaller firms tend to outperform larger firms in the stock market, despite the fact that they are typically riskier investment. Critics of the small firm effect argue that it's not reliable market anomaly and that is simply a result of variation in the stock market. Momentum and reversal anomalies. So, momentum effect describe that stock that have performed well in a short term, like 3 to 12 months, continue to do so due to the investor herding or delay reaction information. Okay, it refers to empirically observed tendency for using asset prices to rise further and failing prices to keep falling. So stock with strong past performance continue to outperform stocks with poor past performance in the next period. So when we say long-term reversal naman, it over times 3 to 5 years stock that have underperformed or may outperform as market correct reaction. Okay, it is the tendency of securities with high returns over the past 3 to 5 years to underperform relative to securities with low returns through the same period. Next is earnings and related anomalies. So when we say PAD or post earning announcement drift, so it is a stock prices continue to drift in the direction of an earnings surprises for weeks or months after the announcement. So it also known as a SUE effect, SUE effect, is a tendency for the stock cumulative abnormal returns to drift in the direction of earnings surprise for several weeks, even several months. So following an earning announcement. Stock split effect naman is the companies that split their stock often see abnormal returns likely due to improved liquidity and investor optimism. The split increase the number of shares outstanding, but the company's overall value does not change. So immediately following the split, the share price will proportionally adjust downward to reflect the company's market capitalization. And last is the behavioral anomalies. So in behavioral anomalies, we have herd behavior. So herd behavior is the investors to follow the crowd, causing bubbles or crashes. So the behavior of individuals in a group acting collectively without centralized direction. So herd behavior occurs in animals in herds, packs, bird flocks, fish schools, and so on. So as well as in human, in the tendency of the people in a group to think and behave in a way that conform with others in a group rather than as individual. Okay. Then last is overreaction and underreaction. So investors either overreact to bad news or underreact to good news, leading to leading to mispricing. So overreaction occurs when decision makers respond disproportionately to new information, while underreaction means naman that the investor do not react enough information and investors do not adequately read to information. So this poses a challenge to the efficient market hypothesis. And that's the end of my report po. Thank you po, Doc.
Again, as what our presenter mentioned, no, market, of course, one of the market anomalies are phenomena, no, that okay, so that control actually, okay, or the market anomalies are phenomena that cannot be explained by traditional financial theories, no, often arising due to behavioral factors. These anomalies challenge the efficient market hypothesis, no, which uh, suggests that asset prices fully reflect all available information. So example of market anomalies include the January effect. No? So whereas stocks tend to perform better, no, in January, and the momentum effect where stocks that have performed well in the past continue to perform well in the future. So behavioral explanations for these anomalies, no, often point to investor sentiment, no, and herd behavior. So when we say herd behavior, it is a prominent concept, no, in behavioral finance. Of course, when investors follow the action of the majority rather than relying on their independent analysis. So this behavior, no, can lead to market bubbles, no, where asset prices rise significantly above their intrinsic value and subsequent crashes, no, when the bubble burst, no, for instance, that dot-com, no, bubble of the 1990s, no, if I'm not mistaken, was fueled, no, by over optimism about internet companies, driven in part by herd behavior. No? So, to cut in short, no, behavioral finance provide valuable insights, no, into why financial market deviate from rational predictions, highlighting the importance of psychological and social factors in investment decisions. So, through understanding these dynamics, no, investors and policymakers can develop, strategies, no, to mitigate the effects of cognitive biases and address market inefficiencies, no, fostering more informed and stable financial environments. Okay?